All right, we're all set to begin whenever you're ready, Steve.
Good morning. As chair of the commission, I call this meeting to order of the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. And let me adjust my screen a little first. There. This Zoom webinar is being live streamed to YouTube. For anyone in the public watching who would prefer to watch via a different platform than they're currently using, please refer to our social media at Redistricting MI to find links for other platforms. Our live stream today includes closed captioning. We have ASL interpretation available for this meeting. If you are a member of the public watching who would like easier viewing options for ASL interpreter, on your screen, please email us at redistricting@michigan.gov and we will provide you with additional viewing options. Similarly, members of the public who would like to access translation services during can email us at redistricting@michigan.gov for details on how to access language translation services available for this meeting. Translation services are available for both Spanish and Arabic. Please email us and we will provide you with a unique link and call-in information. This meeting is being recorded and will be available at redistrictingmichigan.org for viewing at a later date. This meeting is also being transcribed, and those transcriptions will be made available and posted on redistrictingmichigan.org, along with written public comment submissions. Members of the media who may have questions before, during, or after the meeting should direct those questions to Anita Karnowski, Press Secretary, Department of State. Members of the media should have her contact information. For purposes of public watching and the public record, I will turn to Sally of the Department of State to take note of the commissioners present. Sally.
Good morning, commissioners. When I call on your name, please unmute yourself and indicate that you are attending the meeting remotely and from what city or county you are attending it remotely from. Doug Clark.
Present. I'm attending the meeting remotely and I'm currently located at Rochester Hills, Michigan.
Juanita Curry.
Hi, I'm Juanita Curry and I'm attending the meeting from Wayne County remotely.
Anthony Eade.
Anthony Eade, remotely present from Oakland County.
Brittany Kellum.
Brittany Kellum present, and I am here remotely from Wayne County. Sorry, I'm having camera issues and multitasking.
Thanks, Brittany. Rhonda Lang.
Here attending the meeting remotely from Reed City.
Steve Lett.
Here, and I'm attending remotely from Lee County, Florida.
Cynthia Orton.
Present, and I am attending remotely from Battle Creek, Michigan.
MC Rothhorn,
Present. I'm attending remotely from Lansing, Michigan, Ingham County.
Rebecca Zatella,
Present, and I am attending remotely from Wayne County, Michigan.
Janice Villette,
Present, and I'm attending the meeting remotely from Highland, Michigan.
Aaron Wagner,
Present, attending remotely from Charlotte, Michigan.
Richard Weiss,
Present, and I'm attending remotely, and I'm attending from Saginaw County.
Dustin Witches.
I'm present, and I am attending from Howell, Michigan.
All commissioners are present.
Thank you, Sally. All commissioners being present, we do have a quorum and can continue with our business. It is my understanding, well, we do have an agenda. Everybody should have received it yesterday. Are there any additions or deletions or corrections to the agenda that anybody would like to make?
No.
Seeing none, if you would adopt the agenda as presented, raise your hand. The agenda is adopted. The minutes from Tuesday, January 12th have been sent out. If there are any additions, deletions, or corrections to be made, we would entertain those now.
Steve?
Rebecca.
Yeah, so the copy that I have, I don't know if a later one was sent out, but it has that, it obviously has a reviewing bar on the right side where it says not highlighted. If we could take that off so we don't have that reviewing bar, so it'll fill the full page.
I don't know. Okay, that's fine with me. Who does these, who puts these together? Sally?
Kathleen on the MDOS staff does the minutes. I made some edits and evidently I didn't accept one last change when before I saved them. So I apologize for that. Next time you'll get the full deal.
All right, just have them make that correct and send out new ones for everybody, please. Anything else? Okay, if there are none, with that correction going to be made to eliminate that extraneous formatted, not highlighted note, if you would approve these minutes, raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. They are approved. Okay, we have, it's my understanding, some public comment this morning. Two, I believe, have been informed. A few notes about the public comment for anyone just joining us. Because this is a virtual meeting, members of the public have to sign up in advance to address the commission. The Department of State will unmute each member of the public for up to 2 minutes on a first come, first served basis. This means that members of the public will be called on in the order in which they signed up to address the commission. To those members of the public participating in public comment, please note you will have no more than 2 minutes to address the commission this morning. At the conclusion of both of these comments periods, we will conclude the public comment. If you would like to submit thoughts to the commission or participate in public comment at an upcoming session of the commission, you can email our office at redistricting@michigan.gov and we will provide your written thoughts to the commission. Public comment sign-up links are also posted Redistricting Michigan social media pages on Facebook and Twitter at Redistricting MI. Now, I would recognize Sally Marsh from the Michigan Department of State, Director of Special Projects, who will call on members of the public to address the commission. Sally, take it away.
Hello, individuals who've signed up and indicated that they would like to provide live public commentary will now be allowed to do so. To those members of the public who are participating, just a few technical notes. After I call your name, your screen will change and you will rejoin the meeting as a presenter. Then you will need to turn your sound and video on before you make live public comments. And once you begin, you'll have 2 minutes. I'll time you and I'll come back on to let you know that your time has expired. And if you have audio issues or technical issues, we will move on to the next person and then come back to you. So don't worry, you'll have some time to troubleshoot if necessary. So the first member of the public for public comment is Anthony Sue. I hope I didn't mispronounce your last name. Just give us a moment to get you over.
Hi, thank you very much. Hi there, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm an emergency physician. I work both in Ann Arbor and in Livingston County. So I have the perspective of managing and taking care of sick patients from across the economic spectrum and political spectrum. I'd like to say that in the 40 plus years of my life, I've seen multiple government systems, and the one that currently that we are living in is becoming more and more unstable gradually. It's unsustainable. How do we heal the country and bring it back so that people shake hands and give each other hugs? Beyond the pandemic, beyond the vaccine, we have to be able to talk at a level to each other that we can understand and empathize. So our leaders also have to be those that we can understand and appreciate us in return so that we can have faith in our representatives. What does that mean? That means we need to move towards the middle. How do we do that? When we do redistricting, we're going to have to skate to where the puck will be. We know that with the census, the demographics are changing. We have to skate to where the populations, the age, as well as the ethnicities of the people that will be representing us will be in the middle, if possible. The current trends of continuing to have bipolar and divided government will make it difficult to govern, and an unstable government, one where violence, the rule of the gun rather than the rule of law. Please consider when you draw your lines to have a balance of both urban and rural, with preferably a predominance of suburban, to help balance the needs of all the people on both sides of the political spectrum, so that we can talk to each other, shake hands, and interact as a community once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sue. We appreciate your comments, and certainly we'll keep those in mind as we move forward. Sally, our next participant.
That concludes live public comment this morning. The other participant hasn't logged on.
Okay. Correspondence. Sue, we have correspondence?
We do not have any correspondence this morning. However, I wonder if we wanted to keep this as a standing item on the agenda in case there is any. It was utilized in one of our previous meetings to follow up with some of the public comment we received. So that's an option also to do in this space. And then I was thinking it may be an opportunity for us to offer the answer to a frequently answered question, because we're getting a lot of the same questions in public comment. And I know MC's talked many times about public education and how do we help get the public up to speed on what we're doing and what the Constitution says we're supposed to be doing. So I'm wondering, with the guidance of our communications and outreach director, who will be on staff soon, possibly he could help prep a different commissioner each meeting to offer the answer to an FAQ that would be an ongoing education space.
Well, I think that's, I know I made comment at our last meeting regarding some letters. And I personally think it's a good idea. We know from talking with Arizona and California that we will be getting a deluge of emails, letters, etc. And I know they classified them in the category. So we can anticipate doing that. Is everybody good with this agenda item as something permanent? Okay. Obviously, we're not going to have public comment or correspondence every time, at least initially. I would guess that we're going to be more frequent as we go along. Executive Director report. Sue.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Oops, Rhonda, did you have your hand raised?
I was just going to ask, is that something that we have to do a motion on, or can we just add it? I just want to make sure for the order that we're supposed to do. I'm great with that. I think it's a wonderful idea, but I didn't know if we had to do a motion on it and vote on it, or if it's something that we can just add. So I'm just asking.
Well, we approve the agenda each time. So if there is a time when we don't want to keep it as part of our permanent agenda, we can move to take it off. So I don't see that it needs to be approved in that manner. However, having made that comment and having been chastised previously in an email from somebody, all of those who would favor keeping correspondence on our permanent agenda. Any opposed? Same sign. Thank you.
All right.
And I'm being informed that my internet connection is unstable. And that means that somebody's going to mute me from time to time. So if I start talking and you don't hear me, say, hey, you're muted. I'll unmute myself. Thank you.
Chairman, I'll
Sue.
just add, we're going to call you and merge your audio so that the audio is coming through your phone, so that even if your internet connection is spotty and your picture might freeze a little bit, the commission will still be able to hear you without an issue. So we'll do that behind the scenes.
So that was you calling me. I take it. Go ahead. Go ahead, Sue.
All right, so my report this morning is quite brief, but again, I just want to thank the commissioners for your continuing work and the Michigan Department of Staff who work so diligently behind the scenes. I'm looking forward to our continuing discussion today regarding the Communications and Outreach Director position. We had a question last meeting about the Zoom reminders that come an hour before the meeting and why the print is so tiny. And Sarah did indicate those are auto-generated. You can click on that tiny print and it does work. So just try click until you reach it and you'll have it. It's really, I think it's really beneficial to have that email right before the meeting so we don't have to dig through all our emails to find the previous notification. So the emails to the general counsel applicants who were not selected were sent out, and I thank Sarah for doing that on behalf of the commission. I want you to know that I've always had an open door policy. This is a different time, so I guess I'll say an open email or phone call or chat. Please feel free to reach out to me anytime you have a question, anytime that I can be helpful. Anytime you have a comment, about something we should or shouldn't do. I appreciate those and appreciate the connections. So know that at any time you can reach out to me. And then lastly, we had talked about having kind of a getting to know you or an icebreaker moment at our meetings. I don't want to surprise you with anything that might be something that requires some thought. So if that is the case, and I'm asking a question that might require some thought, I will put that on the agenda. But this morning I have a very easy one for you. And that question is, what is your most productive time of day? I heard a few comments before the meeting. So I think it fits really well today. And I'll just call on people to make it easier. So let's go. Cynthia Orton, what is your most productive time of day?
Can't get control of my mouse. I would have to say very early in the morning is my
Okay.
most productive time of day.
All right. How about MC?
I'm also generally a morning person, but it's funny. There's different days at COVID. I'm not using an alarm these days, and sometimes I'm sleeping until 6 or 7.
Wow. Rebecca, what's your most productive time of day?
Definitely morning. I'm a morning person, and I also tend to be an insomniac. So sometimes to me, morning means like I'm up at 3 in the morning doing stuff. So.
Okay, well, I'll follow Rhonda on that.
I agree with Rebecca. The 3 a.m. thing, that's my life every day. So, and the insomnia. So we have something in common there.
Okay, how about Janice?
I'd have to say morning.
Okay. And Aaron?
Oh, I prefer the mornings as well.
Okay. Richard?
Oh, I guess I would say probably sometime after 10 o'clock and through the day.
Okay. How about Dustin?
Yeah, I feel that I'm most productive early in the morning.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Dustin, how about you?
I guess I'll be the contrarian and say it's early afternoon.
Oh, okay. Well, everybody has their most productive time. How about Juanita? Unmute. Can you unmute your microphone?
Yes, sometimes I get insomnia like Rebecca and Rhonda, but I generally like mornings. And then sometimes I like today, I would like after 10 o'clock, but I'm good.
Okay, we're happy you're with us. Anthony, what's your most productive time of day?
Yeah, I'm definitely an evening person, like 7 p.m. to midnight is when I'm most productive.
Okay, thank you. Steve?
Well, since everybody's a morning person, I'm going to say about 2 o'clock. That's when I take my nap.
Oh, and you're most productive when you're napping.
Hey, you guys that are young, you'll figure it out.
Okay. Well, thanks, everybody. I think, did I catch
Richard?
everybody? I didn't miss anybody, right? Brittany?
Brittany.
Did I miss you? I did miss you, Brittany.
I am having, can you repeat the question? Because I keep looking befuddled because it's an internet thing. So just, can you repeat what I'm having?
Sure. Sure. What is your most productive time of day?
Oh, a time of day that is not good to be up. I really like late hours. I've been that way all the time. Feels like when everyone's sleeping, the energy, the vibrations are higher and I can get really productive. I've never been a morning person.
Okay. All right. Now, is there anybody I missed? I want to make sure I caught everybody. All right. Thank you very much. We'll take that into consideration as we're scheduling our meetings, or as I email you. Anthony, I might email you at midnight, or Brittany. Others I won't. I don't want to wake anybody up. So,
but I mean, I have a really, really busy schedule, so it's whenever. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, everyone. That concludes my report. If you have any questions of me, please ask. Thank you, Doug.
Sue, when are you the most productive?
Oh, I guess I could tell you that too. I really am a morning person. I like to get up and at 'em, and while others are quiet and are not sending you a lot of emails and that, I do really prefer the morning. Do you want to hear from Julianne also?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, I'm also very productive in the morning, but I will have late night surges that I find if I'm in the zone, it's easier to just keep going. So I too will be emailing Rebecca and Rhonda and Juanita at 2 in the morning.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Let me ask a question of Sarah.
Sarah, am I coming through the phone?
Yes, you are. I would recommend that you turn down the volume on your computer though, because we're getting a little bit of feedback.
Okay.
Okay. I'll work on that. Old business update.
I think it's the legal counsel report before that.
I thought we were, I guess I was. Go ahead, Julianne.
Thank you so much. So I would thank you for the opportunity to provide a snapshot of where I've started in my work. I'm approaching things more broadly than the immediate task at hand, but what I've currently started is drafting guidance for the commission on Section 11 of the Constitutional Amendment, dealing with interactions with the public, participating in the RFP development with MDOS. I also started analyzing whether the commission will need bylaws, rules of procedure, or potentially both. And I've started drafting proposed policies and procedures for your consideration. I've also started identifying additional immediate and long-term priorities that I can discuss with Sue and we can bring to you for your consideration. And I'd just like to echo Sue in that I also operate under an open door policy. I welcome input and feedback, questions. I'm available by phone and email, whatever's most convenient for you. And I'll also be reaching out individually to everyone to make sure they have my cell number and we can move forward. Thank you. That's my update.
All right, thank you. Now for old business, the Department of State update.
Hi, everyone. Sally Marsh from the Department of State here. I'll be really brief. I just wanted to clarify for any of you who have heard from DTMB about your computer, don't worry about it. We are further clarifying with them kind of exactly what needs to happen here. And so I expect that by the next meeting, we'll really have a plan in place and have some a clear steps that you all need to take. But just, I wanted to make sure if any of you got emails that were kind of confusing to you, not to worry about it. And, I thought I'd just provide a little bit of insight of some of the things that are happening behind the scenes logistically with the Legislative Council, who, as you know, actually helps pay your invoices. It was really great that that you all started using resolutions and actually, resolutions that indicate what the motion was and who signed it. and who approved it, because they have now started asking for that kind of verification from meetings when you all make decisions. And it's a lot easier to verify that what's being done is actually the will of the commission. So, and in fact, they actually asked if past meeting minutes where there weren't resolutions, if those could be signed or something else to really help kind of solidify exactly what your will as a commission is and what your decisions are. So just wanted to provide you that insight. I think that that new resolution format will be helpful on the back end and behind the scenes to make sure those logistics go smoothly. So I don't know if you have any questions of me, but that's all I got.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you, Sally. I must say, using this phone to connect is disconcerting. The next item is Communications and Outreach Director hire. We finished our interviews and had a brief time of discussion previously. Everybody went back and reviewed whatever they were going to review, and we are now here ready to discuss further. Brittany, will you please help us with our discussion? Thank you.
Absolutely. And don't be discouraged, Steve. Tech issues are abound. I think that's just the nature of us being virtual. So we're here with you. I will open up the floor to a discussion for Communications and Outreach, the hire for the director. And I always like to start by opening up this time to my fellow commissioners. I believe in our last discussion, we briefly talked about our top two. In previous hire discussions, we still have our top choices, but we are thorough in discussing our professional thoughts on all of the information that we've received. So why don't we do the same thing in the spirit of consistency? And on my screen, I'm just, thank you, Anthony. I think on my screen, I'm just gonna go around and we can share our top choices, as well as our thoughts on other candidates as they come up. Who would like to go first? Ooh, this is different. Anthony and then Rhonda.
All right, so I will start us off. So I used the rating sheet that Sue had given to us to try to kind of rank each candidate's, as I thought on the job they would do. And I kind of had two tiers at the end of this. I had Edward Woods with the highest total, and then very close to him, I have Walter Song, and then Walter Sorg. And then after those two, there was a bit of a drop off. And third, I had Janet Lipsky. And fourth, I had Bill Froelich. I first want to say that I think any of these four candidates would make great choices. I think they can all do the job. But I think Mr. Woods and Mr. Sorg, they'd probably do the best job. And I know that at the end of our last meeting, we all kind of said the same thing. So something we should keep in mind between these two candidates are the pros and cons between all of them. Some notes that I had for Mr. Woods was that he brought a certain level of professionalism that I really appreciated. He was very well put together. He seemed very prepared, probably due to the pre-interviewing process. He had specific examples of communications and PR campaigns that he had initiated, and kind of used that as evidence to the work that he could do. And I also appreciated that he had specific examples for different types of communication that he would bring to the table, whether that be print media, social media, video media, and, just all different types.
No, I can't do that.
And I also finally think he had a level of empathy that he kind of spoke to when he was talking about the question in regards to communicating within a crisis. And, I just think if some sort of crisis were to happen, hopefully it doesn't, but if it does, I think he would be an effective communicator of what the commission wanted to do. As far as Mr. Sorg goes, the biggest pro about him is he has the most experience. Just as far as, straight up, he's done this job and he's done it the most out of any of our applicants. He also was very professional. Something I noted was that the quality of the microphone he was using was, the best out of all our applicants. And that's, some of the little things that I appreciate when it comes to communication. And like Mr. Woods, he also had many specific examples of, different types of campaigns that he had led. Something that I think kind of set him apart is that he kind of understood the reality of the constraints we're working under, such as he spoke to our budget and he spoke to practical insights of things we might want to consider during COVID. All of which I think are pretty important. So that's what I have for the two of them. And like I said, I think either would make great choices, but we should think about, the pros and cons of each.
Thank you, Anthony. Rhonda?
Oh, I always get so nervous, especially when I go after people that speak eloquently. I'm envious of you people that do that.
Take a breath. Just fine.
I went back through and watched the interviews because I find that even when we're doing the interviews, as I'm taking notes, I miss a lot of things. So I did go back and review it. And I would also like to say there were two that floated to the top for me. However, I do want to give acknowledgement to Mr. Freilich and Janet Lebson. I think they were both great candidates. I think they both had their own unique set of skills and their personalities were wonderful. I just think that with the other two candidates that we had, they floated to the top more so. So when I did my rating, I did it as I always do, and I have a few pages here of notes, so just bear with me. I write big and I'll make it quick. When I was looking at experience, Mr. Wood, I believe he does have a lot of experience with public speaking, town halls, outreach, and extensive experience with event planning. He has many contacts from his work that he's done, both governmental and organizational groups that could be used for outreach. Mr. Sorg also has a lot of experience. He's got definitely a lot of experience with journalism, TV, radio. He also has many contacts because of his years of doing his work. When it comes to outreach and engagement for me in that area, I felt Mr. Woods rated higher than Mr. Sorg. It seemed that he's dealt with a lot of controversial type things, opioid crisis and poverty. And so I think, in my opinion, he went up the ladder for me in that aspect. I also believe that Mr. Wood showed energy level, a compassion and excitement for the position. Mr. Sorg was definitely knowledgeable. But again, I feel that the energy level and the compassion showed by Mr. Woods was just higher. And I also want to say I respect the fact that Mr. Woods pointed out that he did not listen to the previous interviews because he wanted to show us who he was, the quality that he was. I believe that he was able to not lose a step. He stayed on task and answering questions, which Mr. Sorg did too. But when thrown different questions, like I asked Mr. Woods a question that wasn't on the list, and he was able to come back and not miss a step with it. Brittany asked Mr. Sorg some questions, and I almost felt, especially the one about reaching out to diverse communities and how do you bridge the gap. I think in my opinion, it kind of threw him for a loop. So his first comment about reaching out to diverse communities was about being an Uber driver. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking you've done so much more work than that, you know, bridging the gap in Uber, I just didn't relate the two. So I almost felt like it was one of those comments that you make just to kind of fill time for a minute until you get your thoughts about the question. And again, my opinion. Another thing during the interviews that stuck out to me was, oh, sorry, I heard background. Mr. Woods made a statement that I really, really appreciated. And the statement was that everyone who wants to participate can do so in the process. And I appreciate that because we are working for every citizen in the state of Michigan. Whereas in contrast, Mr. Sorg talked about reaching out to groups that have the strongest interest in the outcome. And, you know, he talked about Michigan being a state of 10 million citizens, and we wouldn't want all of them 10 million citizens to be at a town hall. And I guess that's kind of where I differ in opinion wise, because if 10 million citizens wanted to participate and give their input, then I think it's our job as a committee and our staff's job to make it happen, irregardless of what we have to do. Regardless, I just made a grammatical error. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm moving on. I'm sorry, guys, but you know how I am. I felt that both spoke very well. Both are very articulate, but I just felt more of the connection and felt that Mr. Woods was a little more personable for my liking. I'm going to agree with Anthony. Mr. Woods gave great examples of tools that he's utilized to reach people. He made it a point to talk about people who speak other languages, people with disabilities, or people that may not have great understanding due to a disability or educational barriers, and using tools to help simplify meanings so they can understand. I appreciated that. He also hit on some important key words for me. He talked about teamwork, integrity, trust, and building trust. And for me, those were really some things that I wanted to hear.
Hello. Steve, can you mute the phone that is attached to our meeting? Because it's picking up your conversation.
Okay. So again, personally, when it comes to outreach, and in my opinion, I see Mr. Woods garnering more trust with the communities. I can see that happening. I talked about that. I talked about that. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going through my notes and I kind of skipped over which.
Don't apologize. This is what the discussion part is for. It's fine. I don't think there's no right or wrong to discuss.
I know. I just tried to make it quick so everybody's got a chance. And oh, and another thing that stuck out to me with Mr. Sorg was the question of when Brittany asked an additional question about what up-to-date tools have you used. And he talked about how he developed a, quote, functional website, nothing great, but functional, how he made his own campaign material and did a Facebook page. That's great and all, but in all honesty, I've done the same thing for my business and I am a super novice. So I was almost hoping to hear, you know, things like, I don't know, I just expected to be wowed more when it came to tools that were used. I don't know. Going to public comment, yes, there was no public comment this time, and that is so wonderful on both sides. I am so happy to hear it because I always lose so much sleep over the public comment. So wonderful. Both did have glowing letters of recommendations from people. I did like Mr. Wood's letter that he provided after the commission to everybody. or after the commission, I was reading my notes, I'm sorry again, that he provided after the interview to the commission. You know, it talks about his integrity, and there's just something about it, a truthfulness, and why he didn't tell people because he wanted to be judged on his merit. And I have respect for that. You know, our other times I always brought up conflicts of interest, et cetera, after listening to our presentation yesterday. I'm moving on. I just want to let you know I took it all in. I'm good. Social media. Now, the Department of State does give us their footprints, their online footprints, and I'm assuming we're given that because they want us to look it up. And I have to say, and it was mentioned in the meeting, I agree everybody has their right to their own opinion and their beliefs. Absolutely, our constitutional rights. You know, as a veteran, I hold the Constitution very dearly. So I don't want anybody to think in any way, shape, or form that I would want to silence anybody. Going through the social media that I did, there were things on Mr. Wood's social media, groups, people, what have you, that I didn't agree with. And that's fine. That's fine, because people do have the right of freedom of speech. Same way with Mr. Sorgs. There were things on there that I didn't agree with. That's fine. I brought this up in our previous discussions because the issue that I end up having is when people make blanket statements about a group. And you can have your freedom of expression any way you want to, but when I'm looking at a position where you're going to be working with a diverse group of different ethnic, political, you know, life directions and outlooks, I think it's important to keep that in mind. And when there's blanket statements, and what I mean by blanket statements is, I'm going to just make up a hypothetical. I'm a realtor. So let's say that somebody had a bad situation with a realtor and they said, realtors are the most unethical people I know. That's what I consider a blanket statement, because you had one bad experience with one bad person or one bad realtor doesn't mean that all realtors are, you know, unethical or bad. And I'm just using that as an example so you understand what I mean about blanket statements. So I'm going to move off from that topic. We discussed a little bit before. I just want everybody to understand where I'm coming from. Guess what? I'm on my last page. I guess what I'm trying to say is when it comes down to the two candidates, although both are very good, both have a lot of experience, I feel I could trust and work with Mr. Woods the best. I feel that I would be comfortable in speaking with him. I respect his professionalism, and I respect the fact that he was very, blunt isn't the word, very forward about who he is. He has, I can tell by listening to him, his integrity means a lot. And I can tell that by the letter he sent to us and the way he spoke. Not saying that Mr. Sorg's integrity doesn't, because I believe Mr. Sorg's integrity, he even made the statement that, you know, his life's accomplishments, he's not going to have undone. I just, for me, in my opinion, feel that when it comes to working and it comes to the quality of work that needs to be done, I think Mr. Woods would be best. And thank you for letting me stumble through this, guys. I know that I talk a lot sometimes, so I do appreciate everybody listening. And that's all I got.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. I'm going to go with Doug and then Richard.
Yeah, let me start by saying that I thought all four of these candidates were qualified to do the job, and you know, I appreciate their enthusiasm toward it. The thing that I did notice among the four is that the two of them floated to the top, from my opinion. that would be Edward and Walter. Not to say that Janet or Bill couldn't do the job, but I saw specific things in both Edward and Walter that it kind of steers me toward them. Basically, what Anthony has said is exactly my opinions. I thought that was very well put together, Anthony. And the other comments I'd like to make is that I think you may have mentioned this, Anthony, but I think Walter does have more experience than Edward. But I see some real positives from Edward that really attracted my attention. One, I thought he was extremely well prepared. And I thought he was really upbeat, and his personality was something that we would want on the commission to deal with other people, particularly in a communications role. I think personality factors into that, and he is so upbeat and positive that really caught my attention. However, I mean, Walter's articulate. Edward was just as articulate as Edward. So I don't want to downplay that from Walter at all. But yeah, my opinion is that I think that Edward would be the better candidate of the two, and that's who I would support as well. So, so let me yield back to you, Brittany.
Thank you, Doug. And I'm going to pass the mic to Richard.
Thank you. As usual, commissioners, you have helped me with your opinions on the candidates. But I have one question. Would it be appropriate if, since we have two other individuals here that are going to be working with our communications director, would it be appropriate and would they like to comment on their thoughts of the two individuals that we seem to be leaning to? And of course, that would be our executive director and our general counsel.
I think that's a relevant question. I would leave that to the pleasure of my fellow commissioners, including yourself, Richard. I think it's also important for, like, at the end of the day, we have to make the decision, right? Is, you know, to my knowledge, they can't vote on who we choose. So, you know, my standpoint is always for us to be very strong and decisive and to trust the inclinations that we're building as a group, which includes, I think, for lack of a better word, trust. So that's my opinion. I'm not against it. I think, let me say this though, because Sue had a previous interview that we didn't hear, I think it would subconsciously, there might be influence there. And I know, Sue, that you're professional, so you could do that. But this is me just weighing all the pros and cons, to be completely honest.
And that's what I guess I was asking, if they would like to, or if it's even appropriate for them to comment, even though we are doing the hiring. You know. Sue.
I'm happy to comment. I would like to hear from all the commissioners first. I don't want to influence the commissioners in any way before you've had your say in this meeting. And I will give you some input when you've all had that opportunity. And again, you can take or leave my input, because it is the job of the commission to make the decision.
Yes, and I should have said that maybe after all the commissioners have spoken, and if you two would like to, if that's appropriate, if that would be all right.
Thank you.
Julianne.
Thank you, Brittany. My only comment would be to confirm that we are not voting.
Yeah.
As you indicated, Brittany, but I do appreciate the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Julianne. Richard, did you have some discussion for the good of the order regarding candidate?
Pretty much I go along with Anthony and Rhonda and Doug. I mean, the two people, as I said yesterday, both of them, I kind of think I've made a choice, but I kind of want to wait and see what the rest of the commission says before, you know, and then I'll vote.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I have some thoughts if you all would like to hear them. And then of course, I always like to hear each commissioner's thought, and even if we're redundant. I took some time looking at the actual job description that we worked so hard to kind of get a consensus of. And then I went back and read resumes and thought of the interview. And my top two folks that I thought are capable of doing the job would be Mr. Sorg and Edward Woods, like I shared previous meeting. I think, like everyone has said, Janet and Bill can definitely do the job. But when I think of the spark and maybe like when hiring, there's like a je ne sais quoi, right? About a person. It's like, I can't really put into words, but these two, right? So those are the two for me. And I will say that the things that, in being open, I liked about Walt is he definitely had a very high level PR certification. I think the knowledge that he had and the underpinnings of the commission, is, useful. There's always use for historical knowledge when you're doing a job. It can make you better at it to a certain degree. I do think, though, that Mr. Woods edged him out slightly. And it was the rapport. It was the diversity of skill. That's really what was the difference for me. I heard leadership experience with Walt. I heard boots to the ground with Mr. Woods, someone that does the work. I think, of course, they pivot to our discretion and our will, but I think Bill is a strong leader, where Edward is a strong leader and can execute and give ideas and help Sue and really also immerse us. I also think he has the poise and finesse to be in every community that we possibly could come across. I did some research on both of them just to see, with public relations, radio, community outreach, what was out there. There were numerous videos of Mr. Woods talking about community issues, leading discussions about community outreach, and they're made available to the public. Literally, when I just typed in his name, all of these things came up about trainings that he was doing regarding outreach, field experience when it comes to diverse communities. So to keep it short, I really appreciated all four of the candidates giving their time. My top choice, though, would be Mr. Woods. And I'm going to go to the next screen to see if anyone else has any comments. If not, would you all, then we'd open up to Sue and Julianne. Cynthia, yes.
I seem to be having unstable internet, so if I freeze or something, somebody tell me.
Okay.
So I guess I would just echo a lot of what has been said. I did think that we had really four really good candidates who could all do the job. I went back and watched the interviews, and when we finished the interviews, I had a thought in my mind of who I felt would do the best job for us. And when I rewatched the interviews, that was kind of solidified. And so that is Edward Woods. And the others, there were a lot of great prose about the others as well. But what I caught when I rewatched the interviews was two words really stood out to me that Edward Woods talked about. He talked about civility, and I think that is sorely needed, and we want that for our commission, and integrity. Not that the others don't find those things important, but those just really hit me when he said that. And he also talked about our brand, that our brand would be his brand. And I think we do need to think about that. We need to have a brand for our commission and to help people know what we stand for and what we are trying to do. And I really liked a lot of the ideas that all of them brought forward, but the thing that hit me the most was the YouTube idea of education. I really liked that, and so he would be my top pick.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Those are thoughtful comments as well. MC, yes, please.
Yeah, I echo. Thank you for speaking so well to all of this, all these points, commissioners. I think I'm choosing, and I think I'm choosing the current experience. So I know that we have people who have depth, a great depth of experience, but I want the current experience, and I think that's where Edward Wood's really shown. And I guess I'm valuing that because of the pandemic that we have, and because of this incredibly difficult position. Yeah, where we're going to be needing to reach out with a depth network of that's deep, but do we do it virtually? Do we, is it phone calls? Right? There's such a variety of things, and the way that Edward spoke to it helped me clear. Like I understood the 3 levels of social media that he was talking about, and the way that we could use them, and that educational piece was crucial for me. And the second thing I wanted to acknowledge that I think hasn't been said yet was just the thank you notes. And then the amount of follow-up that we received from some of those, not all candidates, but yeah, those were just significant, and I appreciated those, and just wanted to acknowledge that YouTube video that Walt Sorg did send, I really appreciate it, and I definitely get the idea that he has that film and what did he call it? It's yeah, TV show production experience. It's just how to use it and the format to deliver it, and the ways that we can actually help other people craft it is where Edward Wood's really shown. So thanks.
Thank you, MC. I appreciate that. Any other thoughts? I'm used to waiting 30 seconds to allow people to be polite to each other, gather up courage, so I have no problem with silence. Cynthia.
I don't want to put Erin on the spot, but if she feels like it, since she wasn't here, but she watched the interviews, I would really be interested to hear her thoughts.
Yeah, we didn't hear her voice last time, so sure. Erin?
Yeah, dealing with COVID, I was not part of the Zoom meeting. I watched it on YouTube and was texting Cynthia during it. I, like everyone else, thought we had 4 strong candidates to surface during the meeting. I was leaning towards Edward Woods and Walter Sorg. I think both of them are impeccable candidates. Edward seemed to have a rapport with everyone that maybe Walter didn't, but Walter also brought a lot of experience to the table, having gone down this road before. And I don't know if anybody else happened to watch the YouTube video that he sent us on the Frandor shopping mall. But I thought he had said that he wrote and I believe directed that. And that was well put together. So I am comfortable with either of those candidates. I tend to think I don't like going into uncharted waters, especially if someone has been there before us. So I'm leaning towards Walter because of his voters, not politicians' experience. But I am very comfortable with Mr. Woods as well. So I think we have 2 very strong candidates, and we'll be satisfied with either one of them.
Thank you so much. Feel free to utilize the chat. It's enough for you to be here. Please take rest first. Anyone else wanting to share, or are we itching to vote? Itching to vote. Okay, so I think in good fashion, I am going to turn it back over to Steve. Likely we will do the same as we did before of giving top choices, and then the drop down method. That's what I call it basically. But yes, Doug.
I believe we're going to have Sue and Julianne.
Oh, I totally forgot. Thank you for that cue. Sue, please, Julianne, charge it to my heart, not my mind. I mean, my mind, not my heart.
Thanks for the opportunity to share. I will tell you, when I did my initial assessment from the first interview, I used a 300-point rating scale like Doug had created for the general counsel position. When I was done, they were 1 point apart, those two candidates that we're talking about this morning. I was impressed with both. I thought either could do the job, and the other two candidates were also candidates who could do the job. But I think between Walter and Edward, any one of those two would certainly be up and running very, very quickly, which we need as a commission. We need someone who can grab the communications by, and roll with it, because we are looking toward deadlines and community meetings that we have to hold, and we need somebody who can make it happen. So again, I'm very comfortable with either one of those candidates. I think both would do the better jobs of the ones that were interviewed. I do think that Walter hit the interview out of the park. I would say Walter interviewed a little better with me one-on-one, and I think Walter interviewed with the commission. I can tell that he put a lot of thought into the processes and what we could and should be doing between the time I interviewed with him and the time he then came to the commission. So Walt just knows it like the back of his hand. He's lived and breathed it. It does have that depth of experience that's also valuable. So, I respect the decision of the commission, and I'll be happy to work with either one of the people that you believe have risen to the top.
Thank you, Sue. Julianne.
My only comments are, I appreciate all the thoughtful deliberation the commission put into each of the staff hires. And I enjoyed listening to the interviews, and I look forward to working with the individual that you select at this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Julianne. Now we can go back and proceed to what I just said. Steve, do you want to lead the discussion or the preface before the vote?
Sure. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Good. I've been having difficulties with the phone too. All right. Sally, who's keeping track of our count? We're going to take a roll call vote. Who's keeping track?
I'm happy to call the roll call vote.
I'm assuming we're ready to vote unless somebody tells me differently. And as I don't know what you've got set up on your end, Sally, to keep track of who's voting for what. It would be nice, I think, to develop a form that shows who's voting, and obviously we need to keep track of the parties and independents. So I don't know, do you have one of those already?
Yeah, we have several staff who keep track during the vote and make sure that we have the right amount needed.
Okay. Do you have a form for that?
Yes.
Good. I would like a copy so I can keep track on my end for my records. So probably the other commissioners would also. So if we could send that out, that would be nice.
I know Julianne, I would just want to mention that this is one of the things that Julianne did, I think, in her volunteer hours, even before she was hired. So we do have a form, and thank you, Julianne, for creating that.
Sally, if you'd like, I can update it and send it to everyone.
Yes.
We'd appreciate that, Julianne. Thank you. Because my memory is so short, I need help like that. All right, if we're ready to vote, Sally, would you please call the roll, and as your name is called, simply say who you're voting for, either Ed or Walt. Go ahead, Sally.
Just a point of clarification, and Julianne, this might be a question for you. Do they need to do a motion to vote? I think you need to do a motion for the vote before I'm actually able to take the roll call vote.
Correct,
Well, we
Sally.
can-
There's not currently a motion on the floor.
I move.
I'll entertain a motion to take a vote on the hiring of the outreach individual. And I think Rhonda said she just made that motion, so who's going to second it?
Aaron.
Aaron, second that. All in favor of taking a vote at this time, raise your hand. Any opposed, the same sign? All right, we're ready to vote. I'll explain again how we're going to do it. As your name is called, simply say who you're voting for, either Ed or Walt, and those will be recorded, and we'll see where we end up.
Mr. Chair.
Sally. Julianne.
Thank you. So the motion was to hire the individual. So the commission's actually looking at all 4 names at this point. So if they could just state the name of the individual.
Specify the motion.
Exactly, or clarify the motion and just amend the motion that it's between Mr. Sorg and Mr. Woods.
My understanding, the motion is we've only talked about 2 people.
Okay.
Between Walt and Ed. If that's not clear to everybody, we can remake the motion.
I think we probably should.
Yes, I was just going to say, I want to amend the motion to vote and move that we vote between Mr. Sorg and Mr. Woods.
Thank you, Rhonda.
All in favor of the amended motion being to vote between Mr. Sorg and Mr. Woods, raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Julianne, I see you're unmuted. That means you usually have something to say.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I have Rhonda making the amended motion, and because I also track the votes, although unofficially, and let me say unofficially for Sally, that I have Rhonda making the motion, and the second was captured by who for the amendment?
Oh, sorry. I second Rhonda's motion, the amended
Thank you,
motion.
Brittany. I appreciate it. I have nothing further, Mr. Chair. You have a motion to vote between Mr. Sorg and Mr. Woods on the table.
I think I lost my voice. I'm back here. Hopefully you can hear me. You probably can't.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes. You're on mute. I think you need to turn up your volume, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, can you hear us?
Can you hear us? I don't think.
When you make the call. Hit speaker.
Steve?
Anybody hear me now?
Yeah. Can you hear
I
us?
can't hear you, but go ahead. Brittany, I can't hear you. So did you second the motion? All right, we took the vote. Are we good, Julianne?
Yes, Mr. Chair. You can
Shake your
proceed
head,
with the
yes.
roll call.
We're good.
Yes.
All right. Start the vote, please, Sally.
Thank you, commissioners. I will now call your names in alphabetical order by last name. Doug Clark.
I vote for Edward.
Juanita Curry.
I vote for Edward.
Anthony Eade.
Edward Woods.
Brittany Kellum.
Edward Woods, third.
Rhonda Lang.
Mr. Woods.
Steve Lett.
I'm back. Mr. Wood.
Cynthia Orton.
Edward Woods.
MC Rothorn.
Edward Woods the third.
Rebecca Zatella,
Edward Woods.
Janice Villette,
Edward Woods.
Aaron Wagner,
I vote for Walt.
Richard Weiss,
Mr. Woods.
and Dustin Witches.
Walter Sword.
By a vote of 11-2, Edward Woods has been selected.
Thank you, Sally, and I'd like to thank all of the commissioners, especially the subcommittee that reviewed all of the CVs and made their report, and to Sue, who did further interviews. I think we had exceptional people. I know I didn't express an opinion before the vote. I think this vote, I think these two individuals, this was a pick 'em. You couldn't go wrong with either one. And I certainly, I will let everybody know that I called Ed Woods yesterday and spoke with him because he sent a letter, I assume everybody got a copy of, telling that he had not informed his board of directors that he was looking at another job other than his chairman, Sheriff Reichout in Eaton County. And as I said before, I know 10 people on his board, and I know several of them personally, and some of them are very good friends of mine. And I wanted to assure him that I wasn't going to call him and tell him he's looking for another job before we gave him one. And he was appreciative that I wasn't going to call and spill the beans prematurely. So we need to notify Mr. Woods, and I assume he's watching. Mr. Woods, you've been elected by vote to be our outreach director, and we will be contacting you. And I assume Walter's watching. Walter, as you can have seen, it was very close as far as the comments went. And as I said, I think everybody would agree this was a pick-em decision that we had to make. I wish all our decisions were this easy. So Sue's going to put out a letter. We've already looked at those types of letters with an offer along with a contract. I think we send that out on the first letter now, Sue.
Last time we did that all as one process, but we had two commissioners that volunteered to help field the offer and to negotiate with the candidate on the salary that would be paid. And then after those discussions, then we created the offer letter and the contract at the same time, because both contain that salary information. So
okay. We'll do it the same way and move forward. So I suppose we should move that we make an offer, we negotiate with Mr. Woods on a salary within the range that was put out in our requests, and then bring that back for approval, and then send the official letter and contract information to Mr. Woods. I would make that as a motion. If there's a second, we can take a vote on it.
I second it.
Juanita has seconded it. All in favor of the motion to make the offer and negotiations? Aaron, you have a question? No.
I do.
You're anticipating my vote thing. I'm going to have to switch it up now.
Hey, Steve, I got a question or a comment.
Sure.
I just want to say, whoever is going to volunteer to do the negotiating, I just think we need to keep cognizant the restraints of our budget. We are probably eventually going to have to go speak to the legislature about increasing it at some point. And I'd rather that be later than sooner. So whoever's doing the negotiating, just please keep that in mind.
Whoever's doing the negotiating, do not use up the rest of the budget that we have available at the current time. which is over $1 million. Let's keep it within the range that we indicated to start with. And keeping in mind that we have all determined that Mr. Woods is one excellent candidate. So, okay, we have a motion on to move forward with making the offer. All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed, the same sign. Okay, that takes care of hiring the outreach director. It's now 10:16 and we've been at it for 1 hour and 15 minutes. Let's take a 10-minute break. Doug.
Yes, Steve, we need to get the 2 volunteers identified.
Oh, I guess I was assuming it was going to be the committee.
Yeah.
Who's on the committee that wants to do this?
I was on the committee, but I think we learned.
I was on the committee too, and but I kind of thought Sue was going to handle that.
Well, we've always had the committee members.
I don't want to do it necessarily.
I think the ideal would be have the committee and Sue do the negotiating.
Okay.
I don't want to, personally, I don't want to eliminate the committee from this process. Ron?
Okay.
I was going to say, I just heard Cynthia say that she didn't want to do it. And I don't know about Janice, if she doesn't, Juanita will. I was going to recommend if somebody didn't want to, I can say that when we did the executive director, Doug has a lot of experience with negotiations, because we will be negotiating with Mr. Woods. He did make that clear in his interview. So, if you're not comfortable with negotiations, I think Doug did a pretty good job when we did ours. And I just wanted to throw that out there if somebody is not comfortable doing it.
Janice.
I am not comfortable. It's something I've never done. So if there is someone with more experience, I certainly would like them to do it.
Well, I really have none, but if we have to do it, I don't mind working with Sue or Doug and Doug, so it doesn't matter with me. I just, I don't have any of the amounts or anything in my notes or even in my phone or anything on my computer.
Doug, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say when Rhonda and I did the executive director negotiations, I've got that all documented in a document that I shared with the people that did the general counsel negotiation. So we've got like a 3-page document of the steps that we went through that's available to anybody that's involved.
I also encourage you all to try something new unless it's an absolute no. I think there's a wealth of knowledge where you all will be supported for sure. Sue, you had a hand raised.
Yes, I think in the last process, we had one person from the committee and one person that wasn't on the committee. So I'm more than willing to work with anybody, and it's good to see different people get involved if they have an interest and are willing to do so.
Cynthia.
I'm just wondering if Anthony would be interested.
Oh, he's raising his hand, so he must be.
Did you hear?
Yeah, actually, I was going to say, I think what it sounds like here is, we have Juanita, who is on the subcommittee, who would like to do it. And we have Doug, who's more experienced. And I'd be very comfortable with them two heading this and working with Sue. That way we do have someone on the subcommittee and someone can also maybe learn a new skill.
Okay, is that a motion, Anthony?
Yes, it is.
I have a second.
Second.
Okay, motion is that Doug and Juanita, along with Sue, would do the negotiations. All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Doug, Juanita, and Sue, you have your marching orders. Any questions? Good. Take a break till 10:30. Sarah, are you there?
Yes, Steve.
How am I coming through now?
It sounds great. It's much better.
Okay, because I I don't like iPhones. I know what you were talking about, the hide, but the hide button disappeared all of a sudden. So I don't know.
Well, all clear now.
Thank you.
Aaron, you look pretty miserable.
I'm all right. But thank you, Cynthia.
You're a very
Aaron.
diligent commissioner.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. And I wanted to acknowledge that you're probably also a mama who's probably taking care of the other people in your household, aren't you? In addition to being sick. So just thank you for all that too.
Yeah, luckily they were all sick beforehand. And what was odd is it didn't even jive that it might be COVID until my 15-year-old said he could not taste anything.
Yeah, that's.
And when he said he couldn't taste, I was like dialing the doctor saying, hey, I need a COVID test. And so he came back positive on Monday. And then my husband and I got tested and we came back positive on Tuesday. So.
Glad you're here.
Oh, Aaron, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
So far, I mean, they've all had bad headaches, and you know, the whole upper respiratory gig, and but it's kind of been like flu. It hasn't been that bad so far. So just a long case of flu.
Oh, okay. How long have you had it, Aaron?
Honestly, I don't know because I was tested Monday and I only started getting symptoms on Monday. And I tested positive then, so who knows? And like I was saying before, you know, everybody, whenever we were out and about, they were wearing the masks. So we have no idea who we picked it up from or anything.
Wow. So strange how that COVID works and transfers.
Hey, Juanita and Sue.
Yes.
I'll give you a call right after the meeting and we'll get things organized for.
Okay. Sounds good. Because I don't have a clue how you guys do that. So
don't worry about it. We'll get through it.
Okay.
I mailed you over a copy of the job posting.
Okay.
And I'm going to mail one other item.
All right. Thank you, Doug.
Mm-hmm.
How's everybody else feeling? Everybody feeling okay? Good.
Yeah, not COVID wise, yeah, no problem.
Okay.
It's nice to actually have a little sunshine today,
Yeah.
at least down in our area.
We have it too, Rebecca. A little sunshine today.
Okay, is everybody back? Looks like. All right, next item of business is the big picture timeline, which was sent out to everybody, and I'm assuming Sue, wherever you went, there you are. This was from you, I'm assuming.
I did put that on the agenda. I think we need to start chatting about what might be our highest priorities for the first quarter of this year. Gotta get to that page. If you look at that, it says September to December, we were supposed to hire staff. I think that's pretty well under control at this point. Adopt internal rules of procedure. Now that we have Julianne on board, she's going to look into that and see what she might propose for the commission. And then to plan the meeting and outreach schedule and strategy, that will rely very heavily on our new communications and outreach director. So I'm a little hesitant to go too far down the path without having these two people in place and having their strategic goals enfolded into our planning. But in my mind, and you can tell me if this makes sense, during the first quarter of 2021, I think as we continue, our highest priorities should be those things that Julianne is working on developing for us that she mentioned this morning, getting our arms wrapped around the budget, and then hiring the consultants. Those to me rise to the top. I would ask for input from the commission if these are our top priorities, if there are other things we should add, things that are more important than another MC.
One thing I would request in addition to those, because I think those are important, is helping create a framework. And I think we, with our outreach director, I think we're going to need ways for the community, like our public input. We're getting requests to, how to draw lines and so forth. And we need to somehow create how do we manage all that? So we need to have somehow like these, thinking it through, easy ways for the public to interact with us, to give us information in a format that allows us to use it, right? Whether it's for maps or for otherwise, and somehow, the container where it can be accessed by the public so that they can also see that it's been received by us. That feels like another crucial step in order to get the public involved as much as they already have been, but so we can listen to it and use it.
Well, if they send in an email, we've got them, and they're public, and they can access them to see if they want to do it that way. I think from what I remember, the California and Arizona people telling us the problem is going to be indexing them so that you don't have to look at 500 of the same thing. You can get 500 of the same thing, and here's what those 500 say. So there's going to be that type of work. And at some point in time, I think we're going to have to look at finding some office space somewhere. I'm assuming we're not going to have records scattered from Interlaken to Detroit. And at some point, we're going to be back in some office situation. And I would suggest that we may want to consider not having an office within the city limits of Lansing or Detroit, because they have city income tax. And I don't prefer to pay them. Anybody wants to pay them can raise their hand, and we will let you move to Lansing or Detroit. Stacy raised her hand, but she's an interpreter, and I don't think she meant to do that. Okay.
Rhonda has her hand raised.
Yes. Anthony.
Thank you. On the office point, I know there's a possibility that we may have to have an office eventually, but I think that's really going to rely on this COVID and how it keeps going. And if we don't need an office because we're getting so far into it, I say save the cost personally. If we can have a centralized location, like where all the documents go to Sue's location, why not save the commission the money since we're already almost 6 months into it? It's just a thought that I have, and as far as the financial aspect of it.
Thank you. Who else had their hand up? Anthony, Juanita.
I kind of agree with Rhonda. If we can send everything to Sue, and that would save some money. So that sounds good, Rhonda.
Well, keep in mind that there are going to be more than 3 people working for us.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
And I don't think Sue's going to have, the staff in her garage. You're right. I mean, I'm not suggesting that we're going to make a move next week, but that's something to keep in the back of our mind that down the road, it's doubtful that we're going to keep doing what we're doing in the way we're doing it.
Yeah. Well, maybe we won't have to use it as long if we, as we go.
Anthony, sorry. It was Anthony, Dustin, Doug, and then, but those are just the hands that's on, and Sue.
Yes. Do we know when, or is there like an estimated timeline on when the census data is going to be available to us?
When what?
The census data is going to be available to us.
The last I read, which was this morning, they're anticipating that the first report's going to come out sometime in March.
So that's a little I think we need to think about how we're going to do this, because the planning is going to be pretty essential since it's coming out so late. That means in between whenever we get the data and let's say, October or November of this year, we're going to have the maps completed. And that's a pretty short amount of time.
Well, you're going to have them completed before November. On our timeline, it's probably August. Because you're going to have 5 meetings before November. November is the drop dead date.
Yeah.
And actually
That's correct.
September 17th, because there has to be 45 days of comment after the lines are drawn. So if you're looking at September 17th, that's 8 months, 35 weeks, or 246 days, just to be exact.
Well, I think, at least to me, it's becoming obvious we have to get the map drawers on board so that we can start working with that. There's no reason we can't do preliminary maps with the census data, whatever we have, and then adjust those based upon the census figures that come out. That's my guess as to how it's going to work. So, Doug.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think from a priority standpoint for this first quarter, particularly January and February, we need to get the RFPs out.
Right.
So that we can hire those people in, so we can have the tools to do the work.
Correct.
I think that's one of the big priorities, is to, in the next few weeks, to get those RFPs out. And I think key people will be, like the communications director will be a key person, because he'll be involved in all these public comments. So we got to figure that out. But let me explain what my thoughts have been about the RFPs. And I had drafted 3 of them before. I don't know if we're going to go with 3 or however many we're going to go. Let me just take the one for the mapping for as an example. I think we should have a subcommittee that does that. Basically, it is, a 3-person subcommittee like we've done before. Basically, it's a lot of work for the purchasing people, which I think Sue and Julianne have been in contact with at this point. But the document is probably going to be 35, 40 pages, and 2 pages we're going to be responsible for. But I think there's some additional responsibilities once the subcommittee drafts that and brings it back to the commission for approval. But I think the additional responsibilities, let me see if I can frame this right, would be as part of the RFP process that I've gone through before. Once it gets submitted out to the field, and let's say there's 5 vendors that want to bid, there's a meeting that's held where they can ask questions about the RFP. And that subcommittee should be part of that, if that's how the Michigan purchasing works. And then they go back and they present their proposal. They send in their proposals, but they present them as well. And that subcommittee should be there when they present them. And then, in addition to all that, and then they have to bring that back to the commission, and we get a vote on it. But then, in addition to all that, I think that subcommittee should also be involved with determining how we are going to interface between the commission and the district and the mapping people. Because I think that interface and how we're going to do our work, the processes that we do our work, are very important. So that's kind of how I would frame that whole subcommittee. It's just more than just putting out the RFP. So that's just my thoughts off the top of my head. So I thought that's why I think getting the RFPs out on the field quickly is important, and how we manage that is important as well. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay, thanks, Doug. I appreciate that. And, we need to get moving on that. No doubt about that. Anybody else before I go back to Sue? Sue.
Sally was going to jump in here. She's got her hand raised.
And Rebecca had a hand raised as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see that.
No, it's okay.
Rebecca, if you want to go first, that's fine, or I can talk now.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the public meetings that we have to have as well. I mean, once we get a communications director on, I think it would probably be prudent for us to start moving forward with some of those meetings, even if we don't have census data, just because my concern is if we wait, we're going to end up getting crunched trying to have meetings and trying to draw maps and trying to, do everything at once. And so I'd like to at least, I think everybody has the goal going in that we want to do more than 10, but if at least we start getting our 10 done, I think it'll make things easier when it comes to June and July when we're trying to get more stuff done.
True. Sally.
Just on the RFPs and sort of the process, I wanted to kind of provide a bit of an update. So have been working with Sue and of course Julianne as well on an RFP template that basically starts from what's standard in the Michigan Department of State and other agencies within state government, but really tries to streamline it down to what you all will need and take away some of the red tape that can sometimes slow down the process. So our experts on our team who do procurement and RFPs all the time are helping the staff, your staff draft this. We actually intend to have a draft, not just template, but also statement of work for your review for at least one of the RFPs, if not more than one by next meeting. So you all will have the opportunity to review. I really can't emphasize enough, just based on both personal experience and in talking with Chad Bassett, my colleague who we've been working with for this procurement, is how important it is to get it out the door as soon as we can, as all of you have been talking about. So as far as kind of the review processes and what you want to do once you have bidders, I think there's opportunities to talk about that further, and certainly procedures that are already used to review written submissions by vendors that you all can engage in. But I just want to emphasize, I think, and in talking with Sue, and Sue, feel free to jump in, that really our priority in the short term is to present you all with some drafts that you can review, edit, approve, and then get them out the door so that we're limiting the amount of red tape for starting to get vendors in.
And then we also have Rob Serber, who's going to come back on the 21st and talk more about mapping. And he is a great resource. So as we're looking at that scope of work, he will be available so the commissioners can ask him questions and take advantage of the expertise that he brings to us.
Good. Okay. Julianne? There you are. I don't know about the rest of the commissioners, but as far as I'm concerned, you're an integral part of this commission as a general counsel, and unless you have an objection, I'd like you to keep your video on so that we can see you. Thank you.
That's not a problem at all.
Makes me feel like you're more of the process here. Okay. Anthony.
So two things real quick. I definitely agree with Julianne in that while, the immediate priorities to get the RFPs out, but then, 1B would be to start determining where we're going to have these public meetings and also the logistics on how we're going to have them with the pandemic going on. There was a question at the last meeting on does there have to be a quorum at the public meeting? And there was also a question on if a public meeting, as it says in our Constitution, can be completed over Zoom. Now, how I read it is that, yes, there does need to be a quorum and the meeting does need to be in person in whatever community that, in the 10 or more that we choose to go to. But some clarification on that would be great.
Yeah, there was some discussion. I don't know, Julianne, have you heard that previously? I asked the question of if we could send out a couple of commissioners to have more meetings by doing it that way. So that's kind of what at least what I was thinking. And I don't think Mike thought that was probably going to work. So I think Anthony's raising that issue again. Can we spread ourselves out, or do we all have to be there? Does it have to be in person? It obviously has to have Zoom visual tech pursuant to the amendment. We have to use that. So if you could bring us a little report on that the next time or the next time or two, that would be probably beneficial.
And go ahead, sorry.
No, I apologize. So one of the items that I submitted, I've already submitted a memo to Sue Ann on that topic, and really breaking down the most recent changes regard to that. I'll prepare it in a fashion for the entire commission for your next meeting as you requested. But I would like to reassure the commission that you can continue to meet remotely for no reason until the end of March. So your next series of meetings, you're fine to hold entirely by Zoom.
Right. I think our question, or at least mine is anyway, that if we're going out into the community, can we also do those strictly by Zoom?
Yes, I will incorporate that question into the memo, and also the hybrid that Commissioner Eade mentioned.
Okay.
Question. I'll expand. The initial memo I did, Chairperson, was a very narrow question because I wasn't yet your official legal counsel. So I'll go ahead and expand it for the entire commission and answer the additional questions.
Thank you. Rhonda.
My question was along the same lines as those two in meetings and just getting information out. When I watch our Zoom meetings or our meetings online on YouTube, I noticed that there's hundreds of viewings, but not as many as what I liked. And so I was thinking, and I was going to talk to Julianne about it too. Is there anything that says that a single commissioner could not reach out to county commissioner boards, and that we could come up with something informational wise? Some people may not know that we're even around. Some people might not know where to submit public comments. So would there be anything, as long as we didn't describe, talk about specific things that should be talked about in meetings, is there any reason why individual commissioners couldn't reach out to county commissioners around them just for informational purposes, so the county commissioners can put it out to members of their county and then possibly have them submit, things to us? Is there anything that would prohibit us from doing that, especially being in the single, one person in the commission, as long as we're following the guidelines of not discussing specifics that should be discussed in the meeting?
So my response, Commissioner Lang, would be that that's going to, I think, be an integral part of the communication plan that we're going to establish with Mr. Wood. I know in drafting the policies and procedures, the progress has been going very, very well, except for the communication policy, because I really need to have his expertise. But a more direct answer to your question would be, so the section 11 prohibition is for members of the commission itself, the staff, or consultants having communications with the public. So the example that you gave would fall under that prohibition if you were having a discussion or communications with someone not on this board or staff of the board. And the example you gave also talks about educational or informational materials. And again, my personal opinion is I think that really falls under something that Mr. Woods would want to be involved with, to send to all the county commissioners, potentially in the state of Michigan, so that we're reaching the most people, we're giving the same information out to everybody. So that's my initial thought on that question and that topic. I hope that was helpful.
Doug, did you have a comment?
Yeah, basically the same thing Julianne just said. I think it needs to be a coordinated effort through the communications director, and so that we have consistency in the message that's going out.
Okay, we seem to have hijacked your timeline, Sue, so we're back to you.
I appreciate the input. We are working on a lot of these things. So, I think we need to get the communications and outreach director on board as quickly as possible. And hopefully we can get the negotiations underway and bring back the offer letter and the contract next week for the commission to approve. So if all goes well, I'll work with Doug and Juanita to make that happen. And that really is an integral part. I think if we get our consultants on board, though, I think that is key. Doug has talked about that many, many times. And I do believe that can be streamlined most easily by bringing drafts to the commission. Again, you can accept, reject, edit, whatever you want, but especially for the scope of work, as we reach out to the experts in these fields, Sally and Sarah have agreed to help draft the scope of work so we can make sure we have those comprehensive, and we'll bring the format to you next week. So you can see the format for the bidding process. So, and that'll show some of the timelines and the procedures and how long it will take. And, I think it's very possible that we can have people in place in February, latest sometime in March. So we need these people in place before the other states who are all hiring these same consultant positions get the best people. We want to be able to be in line to get the highest qualified people and not get the leftovers. As far as public hearings, I was thinking a little bit more about, starting those right now we know we're under a pandemic order that is not friendly to having in-person meetings. So I was thinking maybe if we looked more toward April, May for those meetings. But again, there's a lot of planning involved ahead of that. So it may take until that time even to get a lot of these set up. Again, that's a conversation with the communications director. And then we probably will not get final census data until July, maybe. So
I think when I was reading the article, they were looking at hopefully June 1st, I think.
That would be awesome. That would be great.
But it's a moving target and it keeps getting further away.
Yes, and we have to comply with our Constitution. So we'll need to do what we can do ahead of time and then be prepared so that census data can be layered in at whatever point it comes to us. So that's really all I had. I just wanted a sense of if there's anything else you wanted us to focus on. And Anthony, what do you have to say?
This might be more of a question for Sarah and Mr. Brady, but is there any question or should we be prepared for any questions about the legitimacy of the census data, given that it was taken during a pandemic and quite likely might be underreported? If there is a challenge to it, how would we then proceed?
Well, underreporting is not new in Michigan. Historically, Detroit has always claimed that they were underreporting, and when they dropped below 1 million people, they really got excited and sued the Census Bureau, claiming they were wrong. Certainly this commission, I don't believe, is probably prepared to sue the Census Bureau. And I think we're going to end up being stuck with what we're stuck with. If Julianne's got a better answer than that, I'll be happy to hear it.
Yes, it's my understanding that the city has already moved towards making those challenges. My advice would be that the commission continue with its work until there's any determinations on it. We'll use the data we have available until that's changed. But it is definitely a good thing to keep in mind and to monitor, which I'm already doing.
Well, I think we're going to be stuck with tweaking this data right up until the last day. And, you know, I mean, we as this commission really have no way to affect what the Census Bureau puts out. Detroit certainly wasn't very successful in it when they challenged it. They still went below 1 million people, which really makes a difference at that time, because if you're over 1 million people, it's a huge difference. Julian.
I'd like to hear real quick what Sally has to say. She's been trying to talk for a minute now.
Julianne, did you have something about that specifically? And then I'll address some of.
We're on a roll, Sally. Don't slow us down here.
No, I was just going to make the note that there's challenges to the process as well as what the results are likely to be. And yes, we had to change quite a few state laws, in fact, for the population thresholds, particularly when we dropped under 750,000 in the city of Detroit.
And I would just underscore kind of one of the, I think the key takeaways of what Julianne just said, which is, you know, you all will just still proceed. You'll proceed with what you have. You know, Steve was just mentioning that. What I would say though, related to, I think part of your question, Anthony, is about kind of the unique challenges of this particular census. And, you know, both in the fact that during the collection, the pandemics hit and really impacted the Census Bureau's ability to collect the data they need. And then they're also doing, for the first time, differential privacy, which you heard Eric Guthrie talk about in a presentation a couple of weeks ago. And that's a new method that they are utilizing. And so what I would also say, Anthony, I think to sort of your broader question is that when you have the data and when the data is final, I think there will be experts like Eric Guthrie, like Rob Serber, you know, folks who are able to help you understand, you know, the dynamics that are happening within the data and how things have changed or how things are the same. And you all will sort of be able to take that into account with all the other factors that you have.
Certainly, I would expect the mapping people are thinking about all of this stuff right now. And they've been through it more than we have, certainly. And will be able to also explain to us, here's what's going on, and here's when the numbers are coming out, here's what you can do with them, here's how you have to change them, and all that stuff. So we are, you know, we're not census people, we're not mapping people, but hopefully we hire the right people that know what they're doing. If that's possible in today's world, to know what you're doing, which maybe it's not. Okay, anything else on the big picture timeline? Okay. Upcoming meeting agenda items. Obviously, one will be to approve the negotiations and contract with Ed, and that'll come back. And we're meeting next Thursday, if my calendar was right, the 21st. Sue, what have we potentially got?
So in addition to approving Edward, and by the way, I did ask, and he does prefer to be called Edward. So just so everybody knows. We will also have Rob Serber coming then to present more on mapping. Recently, we sent something out that he had provided, so we'll send that out again so you can take a look at that. We will have a draft RFP for mapping, so you can look at the format of the RFP as a commission, and you can also look at that scope of the work and then determine if that is indeed the scope of the work that you wish to have happen. Also, you can look at the procedures like Doug mentioned to make sure that this commission is going to get what it needs in order to do its job. So I think that'll pretty much fill that meeting. It is scheduled from 1 to 4. So that is a 3-hour meeting on the 21st. Also on the 28th, then I want to make sure we have some time to talk about budget and taking a look at where we are, where we're headed, and if we will need to ask for additional resources, what our strategy may be there. So that would be a very important discussion. I want to say we've been working on really tight timelines. We've had 3 meetings here, 2 business days apart. So for people, it's hard to get things turned around and back out to you, so you have ample time to read it. So in the future, we're going to work harder to make sure that you have what you need earlier, so you have more time for review, despite our tight timelines. So that's my commitment. I really want you to have more time to review, so you come to the meetings fully prepared to discuss and ask your questions and then make the determinations you need to make.
Well, that's wonderful, but I can tell you, as we get further into this process, the timelines are going to get shorter, and we're probably going to start meeting about 5 days a week, and then we'll take 2 days to catch up. But we'll see if my prediction comes true. We're going to earn our salary. Let's put it that way. Anybody else have anything they want to be sure is on the agenda item, so we can get it on there that we're not talking about already? I mean, it's pretty clear. We got to get the RFPs out for the census, for the mapping people and the census people, to get the experts on board, so we don't have to. I mean, we're already building this plane as we're flying it. Let's get the engines on anyway. If not, does anybody have any? Oh, February and March calendar meetings. Do we have some ideas about that, Sue?
Possibly MDOS staff could ask people what days they may or may not be open, and we could get some meetings scheduled for February and March. Just try to get them on people's calendars, so then we have our marching orders and we can set these times aside.
Okay, let's send out some emails on that, either you or Sally or whoever's going to do that, and either ask for dates from everybody or give dates that we're thinking about, so we can do that instead of everybody sitting here looking at their calendars on here. Doug.
Yeah, as I recall, we need to give sufficient notice out on the website prior to a meeting. I forget how many days it was.
That's correct, yes.
Well, we need to deal with that because February is coming up pretty quick.
Not only do we have to put it on the internet, we got to post it on a building, which we're doing at the Secretary of State's office right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're halfway through January already, so we're eating into that time.
Yeah.
So.
The other thing that we can do is we can publish the dates, and then we can change them. And the change is quicker than the publishing. So.
Correct.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the group? All right. Following our enhanced procedure, I just take a motion to adjourn from somebody. Aaron is
to adjourn.
Second. Juanita seconded. All in favor, raise your hand and wave goodbye.
Have a nice day.
Have a nice weekend, everybody.
You too.
Well, everyone.